being able to confront these pieces of yourself, confront what's not true and what really is true, confront the shadow part of yourself, the things that you've repressed, confront the truth of the whole of who you are, light and shadow, right? Good and bad. And that is the poison that heals because it makes you whole.
Welcome to In Her Image. I am Jess Burdett, and on this podcast, we seek and celebrate our Mother God through scripture, scholarship, the arts, mythology, and everyday life. And today I've brought on a guest who we've had the privilege of having on the podcast once before. Her name is Julie Dean Richards. As I read this bio, you'll probably remember her as the astrologer who shared about some amazing things about the stars and the constellations having to do with Christ and with the mother. I really loved the episode that she did with Meg. So, Julie Dean Richards is a wife, mother of 3, soon to be 4, doula, herbalist, astrologer, numerologist, attorney, and the co-founder of Feminine Alchemy, School of the Deep Feminine. She's also the co-host of the award-winning podcast Feminine Alchemy. So welcome back, Julie. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me, Jess. I'm doing very good. Like we were talking about, I'm very large and pregnant at this moment, but I feel blessed to be able to be here with you and to talk more about our Heavenly Mother and women. So I'm so excited to be here today.
Thanks for joining us. I know that it's a big sacrifice anyways, but when you're in your 3rd trimester of pregnancy, it's even more of a sacrifice. So thank you so much. We feel really blessed to have you back. I was so fascinated when I listened to the episode that you did with Meg on our podcast before, and then in preparing for this conversation, listening to a little bit of your podcast was so fun. So I'd love to hear who you do the podcast with, how did your podcast get started, and why? And then we'll kind of jump in more to our topic today.
Sure. Yeah. My podcast is called Feminine Alchemy, and actually it's a non-denominational podcast. So we have people from all different kinds of walks and faith who are interested in the feminine. So we do talk a lot about Heavenly Mother. We talk a lot about the goddess. We did, just like you have done, we've done episodes with scholars and with David Butler, all about finding Heavenly Mother in the Bible. But we also touch on what I would call feminine skills or things that are our feminine gifts. And that includes things like astrology and human design and these deeper mysteries. And our goal is to help listeners unlock the mysteries of the feminine for themselves and to be able to use them in a really practical way. So we try to give people practical tips and advice on how to implement things like working with the moon into their life or working with their cycles into their life, coming back to our feminine wisdom and what we've learned from studying the divine feminine in lots of different cultures, things like that. So I have 2 co-hosts, one of which is LDS, and her name's Kaylee Rose, and one of which who's not, and her name is Jan Berenger, and she comes from a more traditional Christian background, although now she has no denomination. She is not affiliated with any religion, and so all of us bring really different perspectives, and we try to make it holistic for everyone. It's been an amazing project. It all came together really seamlessly. Jayanne just found me through a mutual friend, Ali Duzette, and she just was like, I think you're my co-host. And I was like, I didn't know you. I don't know that I'm your co-host. I didn't know that we were starting a podcast together. But after chatting with her and bringing my business partner, Kaylee, along, it was just like magic. Like everything just came seamlessly. We all had the same goals. And so it's been a really beautiful process since then.
Wow, that is so magical. I love how feminine the whole process was of just you were just led to each other and just felt right and you created magic. Really cool to hear. So for this conversation, we are excited to talk about the heroine's journey. So why the heroine's journey? Why is this important Why is it on your mind? Why do you think it might be on other people's minds right now?
Well, many people might know Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, and the hero's journey is the archetypal journey that men travel through. However, the hero's journey is embedded in every part of our life. So even the school system that we go through is really made around the hero's journey. Video games, or even the way we structure our companies or our careers are often structured around this archetypal hero's journey. And no one has been talking about the hero's journey for a very long time. The last time people were really talking about the heroine's journey was in the 60s when Maureen wrote a book, The Heroine's Journey. And so it's for women what the hero's journey is for men. And the reason that it's important to me, and we can dive into that more, but the reason that I think it's so important for women is it gives them an archetype. Archetypes are really important, right? They're everywhere. You could say that, like, the Mother Mary is an archetype, Christ is an archetype. All these different women that we look up to, they help us to understand. Archetypes are universal characters that help us to understand our personal journey, our flaws, where we're going, what things look like. And so for us, right, especially in the In Her Image podcast and in all your work, right, we're trying to see, what does Heavenly Mother look like, right? What is she like? What is her archetype? Because we're supposed to become like her. And so, in the same way, the heroine's journey is part of that process of becoming more like our Heavenly Mother, but it's been lost for a very long time. And so, I think it's so important for women because it relieves women from this feeling that they have to go on the hero's journey all the time. So that they have to push, that they have to be like men, that they have to have this divine archetype that is much more masculine. And it puts it into really practical terms, like what a woman's journey is likely to look like. Not that the hero's journey is bad or that we can't use both of these, but this is specific for women, and women really need this right now because so many women are burned out. So many women don't know who they are. So many women are searching for something, they don't know what it is. And then the heroine's journey helps us to find ourselves. It helps us to wake up to who we truly are and where we're going and how to use our innate feminine gifts and power.
I love that. It's like it can help you see where you're at in this. Maybe what you're going through is completely normal and it's part of the program and it's like for your good. And sometimes it just helps to notice, like, oh, I'm in this part and this is what I'm doing right now. And like, there is a next part potentially and a next part after that. But like right now, I'm in this part. And sometimes that's just so helpful to know, like, I'm not crazy. I'm not the only person who feels this way or who's going through this. So walk us through a little bit, if you don't mind, just what are the different phases of this heroine's journey? And then maybe we can dive a little bit deeper into like examples and what they all might look like. But just to start off with, how would you label each of the phases of the heroine's journey?
Yeah, so I think to do this properly, we probably should talk a little bit more about the hero's journey and what it looks like and some of the differences so people can kind of understand where this is coming from. And the hero's journey is really like, think about your typical video game, right? If you don't play video games, think about any kind of competitive game or sport, right? In the typical video game, you're learning skills, and then eventually you have like this boss. You have to beat this big boss, or you beat the bad guy, right? And then after you beat that bad guy, then you up level and you get to the next level, and then you beat that bad guy, and then you get to the next level and you beat that bad guy. It's very much like a staircase, right? And we can compare this to our education system. You have one level and then you up level. You have another level, then you up level. And the point is to have some kind of achievement at the end. There's always a goal, right? We see that in tons of archetypes, like Jason and the Golden Fleece is a really good example of this. Like, he is supposed to go and get the Golden Fleece, or Hercules. Everyone's familiar with Hercules. Hercules fights all these monsters, and his goal is to attain godhood, right? That's what Hercules wants. And at the end, he achieves it, he's got it. So that's the hero's journey. I mean, there's other pieces, it's more complex than that, but that's the basic hero's journey, is what we're talking about. So think about it, staircase, right? Very masculine, very linear, point A to point B. The heroine's journey, the woman's journey that she goes on is nothing like that. The heroine's journey is very circular and cyclical, which makes so much sense for women because we are cyclical. We live in cycles, right? We live by the moon in many ways. We have a 28-day cycle that we give or take that we work with. We as women, our hormones work secularly in a cycle, right? And we're in phases of life that we have cycles. And so the heroine's journey is very much like a cycle, which is why you can be in this two different phases at the same time. So as I describe this and you start to hear these things, you'll be able to think of like, oh, I feel like I'm in this part and I was in that part before and I'm kind of in the other part too. So it's not so linear and that's okay because I want you to think about if the hero's journey is a staircase, then the heroine's journey is like a spiral. It's an upward spiral. We're always spiraling upward. So the first phase of the heroine's journey, we'll just go over quickly and we can get into each of these more in depth if you'd like. But the first phase is this awakening phase. And this phase is the phase of like something did not go right. Like something's not right. Something's uncomfortable. Something happened to me. Someone asked me a question. I saw something. And now I have more questions. I have to ask questions. I need to follow it. I need to understand it, and lots of times this is an initiation either because you've been trying to be masculine. Lots of times this happens because women will try to be masculine and they'll get all the degrees, right? Like they'll do everything, they'll fight really hard, they'll graduate, they'll do everything they're supposed to. And then all of a sudden they're like, wait, I did all those things and I feel nothing. Like I'm still not fulfilled. What is wrong, right? And they kind of have to confront this like, okay, something is not right. What is not right? And for many women on this podcast, probably what you come up against is like, I was really good. I did all the gospel stuff and I love the gospel stuff and I read my scriptures and something's missing. And someone asks you a question about Heavenly Mother, right? Or you start asking questions like, where is she? What is happening? Why isn't she here? So that's the initiation phase. The initiation phase is like something's not right and it starts us on this journey. We just have to ask more questions. And lots of times in this phase, you often get cautioned during this phase. So there's often like this caution of, oh, be careful. Don't go too far. You can ask questions, but like don't ask that many questions, right? Don't go over there. So we have to deal with that. And we are sometimes seeking mentors in this phase. The second phase is a descent, right? Which really for some people can feel triggering. What do you mean we're supposed to be going up? I'm supposed to be going up. I'm supposed to be ascending. Why am I descending first? Well, you want to know who else descended before they could ascend? Jesus. Jesus had to come down. He had to condescend. He had to descend to be able to ascend, right? Every human has had to come through a female body to ascend. They have to descend to this earth to be able to ascend. So of course we have to descend. And that descent process looks like a lot more asking questions and shedding. So we're letting go of things that we probably thought were true before. We're letting go of pieces of ourselves that are not really part of us. We're confronting what I would call the shadow, which is pieces of ourselves that we have repressed or that we're scared of because we've been told that they're bad, or maybe they have gotten us into trouble. And we're having to confront these pieces and get to know them and get to know our real self. And we're just really like taking off all this armor, taking off all this stuff, getting rid of and sloughing off all the things we knew before. This is a lot of learning. In this phase, we're doing a lot of learning. We're doing a lot of deep digging, deep diving, going down rabbit holes. This phase can sometimes feel disconcerting. Because of that, we can have some phases of feeling angry or depressed because we're like, why was this truth hidden, right? Why did no one tell me this my whole life? This is like very much part of that journey. And then after this phase, after we've shed it all, right? We've shed all those things, we kind of hit the bottom. Then we go into what is called the search phase. And the search phase is a lot of trying things on. So now that we've kind of sloughed off a lot of those things, we learned a lot more. Now we're searching for, okay, what is real? Like, what is real? What is true for me? What are the things that I can put on? What are my gifts? What are my talents? Who is this new person? Who is this person who I'm coming up against? Who am I really? And that's the question we're asking. We're looking for our wholeness. We're looking for who am I really? And that's the search phase, right? Where we're trying to make decisions. And a lot of the search phase can be trying on stuff and kind of taking wrong turns and, figuring things out through experience. Like that's all this search phase. And once we've done the search phase, then we can ascend. Then we can go into the ascension phase. And that ascension phase, right, is bringing back the knowledge from our descent and our search. It's bringing it back. And usually the ascent phase has a lot to do with sharing. Now we're sharing it. Okay. So we're so on fire. We're here. We've got to share it. We've got to give to other people. We mentor other people and we use our knowledge for good. Right? We can then integrate these new pieces of ourselves. We can integrate who we truly are into our lives. And then the cycle starts over. And then right, because it's a cycle, then we start back into the phase of, oh, now I have another question, right? Now there's more things to go about. But those are the four phases of the journey.
Beautiful. So this is maybe just like an opinion question, but do you think that all women go through this once or multiple times in their lives? Or are there some who maybe don't? Like, can you maybe go through life just like, I'm fine just sticking with the status quo and never really fall down that rabbit hole?
I think we always have agency. We always can make choices about what we are, you know, about whether or not we choose. Because what does happen often is that women get stuck in the first phase. So they get stuck in the phase of I have this question, but people have told me I shouldn't have this question, so I'm not going to question, right? So they get too scared to descend. A lot of women do that. Or if they're coming from a phase where they've done all the masculine things and they don't feel achievement, like they get these achievements, whatever that looks like for you. Because being a stay-at-home mom can also be an achievement. It can also be masculinized. So you get to some point, whatever it is, the point that you've said, like, I'll be happy when, or this is my achievement, and you don't feel anything and you know something's missing. So then you keep doing the masculine thing, trying to get the feminine, but you never do because you never let yourself descend, right? You just keep going in circles. So I do think that's possible. I think a lot of women have done that. On the other hand, if you have children and you probably go through this journey in some way, in some fashion or form, because the act of childbirth is the heroine's journey in and of itself, right? It's a descension, right? You descend into this place between life and death. You descend into the intense pain. You shed everything that you thought that you were to birth this child. This can also be done if you don't have children or if you don't ever birth, your own biological children into the earth right here. This can also be part of the creation process, right? Birthing, and because women are always birthing something, right? We're always creating and birthing something. So whether or not that's a childbirth is incredibly visceral, but you can also have this experience through creation of, whatever it is, like birthing your business or adopting a child or birthing art, right? You can have a similar process just on a smaller scale. And that is part of the heroine's journey, because the heroine's journey is literally all about finding you. The masculine journey is about achieving something else. You're really like the masculine's really just trying to get to the feminine in many ways. Like it's trying to achieve and find something. But the feminine is all about waking up to you are the sleeping princess, right? Like you are the superhero. You have all the cards on your table. It's all in your hands, and you're just trying to figure that out. And so, any process that looks deeply like that is going to be the heroine's journey. So, I guess my answer is like yes and no at the same time.
Yeah. Okay, and I kind of feel like listening to your description of the different parts of it, that men might go through this too sometimes. It's not just like men only do the hero's journey and women, you know, it sounds like a lot of women have kind of attempted to just do the hero's journey, but it seems like there's maybe like some more crossover.
Yes, yeah. Men can take the heroine's journey just like women take the hero's journey all the time, right? Women are always doing the masculine thing, and men can also do the feminine thing, but it's more rare. Not in a bad way, but because the heroine's journey is not promoted the same way, or it's not integrated into our life in the same way, it's a little harder to access sometimes, but we do get bits and pieces of it. Right? We do get bits and pieces. And yes, men can go on the heroine's journey and women can go on the hero's journey. And that's the point. Like, it's important to both of us. And it's both important to both sexes. And we both have these pieces. And I would say that if you look at Christ, he goes on both of those journeys during this time, right? He is asking, we don't know as much about his heroine's journey, but he is learning who he is his whole life, right? He is learning, well, this is me. He is descending to ascend in a very visceral way. So, yes, men and women, but this journey, not having this archetype for women, has been extremely difficult for them. And I would say very harmful for many, many women because we allow ourselves to continue to be in boxes and we forget who we are, right? We don't open up fully to our feminine gifts. We're not able to live in our cycles, and we're already in a society that pushes a more masculine trajectory, like point A to point B, and rather than letting women live and work in cycles as they need to. Does that make sense?
Yes, just like everything, right? Everything is set up around the masculine way of doing things. Like I talked about our cycle, like our monthly cycle, women would probably be so much more productive creating if we followed our cycle. If during that week of menstruating, if we took care of ourselves and rested and gave ourselves what we needed, and then on the weeks when we feel really energetic and ready to go, that's when we can capitalize on that energy. But the system's just not set up that way. It's daily, it's weekly, it's, even like at church, things are prescribed to do daily or weekly or every month, no matter what is going on in your body, in your life, you should just do this thing every day. And that works for men who have their entire hormonal cycle complete in 24 hours. But women are built different. And so, yeah, it's not surprising to me at all that this heroine's journey is also like kind of gone by the wayside because we live in a society that's patriarchal. And so I'm glad that we're talking about it. And I think that a lot of our listeners will probably relate to this heroine's journey. A lot have probably been on it and maybe not like had these exact words for it. But I would imagine that a lot of us had this kind of awakening too. Like, I've been missing this thing my whole life, and now suddenly I feel this like intense hunger, this deep need for it, and then taking that descent of like unlearning so much from theology, from culture, of our faith tradition, so many things, and just like what is true, what is right, and looking for our own worth and our own value. And so, I just can imagine that a lot of people are nodding along. Yeah, I totally get that. And I would say, like, for me, this get a little bit personal maybe, but I feel like I've kind of gone through most of these parts and now I'm like trying to integrate, like I'm trying to ascend and like, okay, I have this new knowledge. Feel pretty solid in what I've learned. I'm like I feel a call to like re-enter spaces and even like a state of mind that I was in before, but now with this new knowledge, and it's tricky trying to integrate. Like I feel like I'm kind of a new person trying to rejoin these old things. So, what have you learned about bringing new knowledge and bringing what you've gained from your descent back up into, out from the underworld? How do you like move forward this new creature?
Yeah, that's a great question because I think we're always learning this because we're always like cycling on this journey, right? And in one sense, I can say like, yes, it sounds like we're being cocky when we're like, yes, I have ascended. I'm in this ascended state, right? But we're also always going back and we're always descending and we're always that spiral, right? Think about a spiral continually moving inward and upward and inward and upward. And I think one of the biggest things, well, there's lots of things. Everyone's journey is different, right? So the way that you're going to integrate your knowledge is going to be very different. But what I can tell you is in order to integrate, there are some really important pieces. And one piece that's incredibly important is being connected to your physical body. That's really important, being able to understand your intuition and listen to your intuition. Can you listen to your gut? I think one of the biggest things about the heroine's journey is it's about unlearning to listen to outside forces and relearning how to listen to inside forces. How do you listen to yourself and your body, your intuition, your connection to God over everything else? Because there are a million authorities that would love to tell you what to do. There are a million experts that would love to tell you what to do. And I can tell you, as an attorney who is technically an expert on some subject, right? Who's an expert on some parts of the law, we live in a society that I would say is very expertist. And that is a really masculine thing, right? Everyone is always telling you, look outside because you can't trust your inside, right? Follow this authority figure. Follow what this person tells you. You can't make that decision, someone else. And what do you do? That's another good gut check is like, what do you do when you have a problem? Or what do you do when you have a question? Where do you go first? And a lot of times, most of us, where are we going to go first? We go to an outside source first. We go to an expert source first, even if we have intuitive hits or spiritual hits that we know what to do, we're more apt to ignore those because we have some outside authority, right? We need to get it validated. We need outside validation. And this goes for a lot of things, even like the way we feel about ourselves. We feel like we have to be validated. Our beliefs have to be validated. We need somebody to validate the way that we feel, the way that we look. And I think one of the biggest parts of ascension and being able to move forward is to have the confidence that you are the greatest authority in your life, that it's you, it's your connection to yourself, that you have the answer, right? Because you have a direct line to God and Goddess, right? You have a direct line to your heavenly parents. You have a direct line to the spirit, and you are completely capable. And that's the other thing is we preach often, you'll become like your heavenly parents. We're here to become like God. And then, right, if we're here to become like God, how do we practice that? How do we practice that when we're always looking for someone else to tell us what to do? We have to practice that by becoming, getting an inner compass. And I think so many women are so disconnected from their body. They don't know their intuition. They're afraid of their intuition. They're afraid of what their body is saying to them. And they couldn't even tell you. Like if I asked, this is a great exercise for people listening, just to test your intuition. A great exercise is to ask your body a question and see if your body responds. Right? Can you get a response from your body? Because most people would be like, I don't know. I don't know what my body just said to me. My body doesn't say things to me. I think something and then I think another thought, and like thoughts come. My body's not saying anything to me. That's an important piece, right? This important piece of you can ask your body what it needs, especially because the heroine's journey, we are the keepers. Women are the keepers of the body. We are the creators of the body. We're the veil. Your body is a veil, right? Regardless of whether you have children, your body is a veil. And you need to be connected to that, right? It's one of your most powerful tools, but we have really shunned it so much. But that is a good test. Like, can I figure out how to get answers from my body? So connecting to yourself, learning your intuition, becoming your own inner authority, those things are going to really help you to ascend and move forward with confidence. Is that useful? Hopefully that's helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that. I was thinking of Elsa at the end of Frozen 2 as you were talking about like finding yourself, and then it's about coming back to you and trusting you and realizing like I am the answer. I can just trust myself. Why that's so hard to do, I don't know. But I feel like one thing that makes it extra hard in our time living on this earth is that we have social media. You can just open your phone and have all those experts, quote unquote, or just whoever pretending to be an expert saying what you should do. And it's very hard to tune everything out and tune into our own bodies. So I appreciate that. That's really, really wise. And in our conversations before, you talked about how you have a program where you take people on the heroine's journey. What does that look like? How do you and can you like artificially take someone on the journey, or is it something that has to happen organically, spontaneously? How does that look?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We take women on the heroine's journey in a couple different ways, and I love doing it. And of course, I would say, like, yes, you can. You can have um, I would say that we facilitate and we support women as they're on their journey and help them to dig in. Because it's a cycle, you're always doing all of it at once, right? Like there's no end, it's a circle. And so we're able to take women through the heroine's journey because they're always on that journey. You're always in that cycle. And so we're not disrupting them from their personal journey. We're supporting them through and facilitating that and facilitating them a place where women can really dig into each of these parts and discover themselves. So the first way that we do it is we actually do it through a self-paced program online, which includes, videos, it includes journaling prompts, it includes somatic practices. So for people who don't know what the word somatic means, it means the body. Somatic practices are physical practices. They're meant to reconnect you to your intuition, help you release emotion, and help you to really come back to yourself, to your body. So we give women the knowledge, right? Because really, this is all about wisdom. We want you to learn wisdom. That's a very feminine term and word. So each of these pieces is meant to help you in that journey. So the videos and the courses are about the knowledge piece. The journaling and the meditations and the somatic practices are where you gain the wisdom. That's where you do it yourself. We also include, and this can be a scary word for people, but we also include ritual as part of this. It's really important. And I'll tell you why. And when I say ritual, a lot of people, even in the LDS church, can get a little scared because when we think about a ritual, like, is that people wearing cloaks? Is that people doing some weird thing with a candle? No, a ritual is not. I promise you have rituals every day. A ritual is something that you do over and over again or in a special way to remind you of its importance, right? A habit is something you do over and over again because it's unconscious. Ritual is something you do to become conscious, to remember, right? That's the point of the ritual. And so we use ritual and ceremony because it tells your brain, it switches your brain and it helps your brain to understand, I'm going through something important. I'm actually taking steps. It makes it more real when it's cognitive and it helps you to remember things. It marks your rites of passage, right? As you're going through it. And each of these phases is a rite of passage. So we take women through ritual and they're very simple. They're nothing scary. You can adapt them to yourself, right? And to what you have. You don't have to have like a million fancy things to do them, to do any of these ceremonies and or ritual, but we include them to help your brain understand, oh, I have gone to this next step. I have done this thing, and to make it special for you. We've lost this in our society. We've completely lost touch with rites of passage, with ritual, and it's actually really important for women. We're missing that, right? Like this with our bleed all the time. Like it's a big deal, but we've like downgraded it so much because we've lost so much of our ritual around our bleed and our ceremony around what that means. So we are trying to bring that back. So we include those ceremonies, and through each phase, we have gates. And so that gate is where you'll do that ritual, and you also receive a symbol when you go through that gate. And the reason we do that, so I am a nerd. I am a symbol nerd. I am a linguist. I speak 5 languages. I really try to dig deep, deep down into, the original text and what is there. And so I have been on a mission to uncover as many divine feminine symbols as possible. I'm actually at about 90. So right now I have about 90 divine feminine symbols, which is amazing. I never thought I would get to 90. My goal is to find 100, and these are from all different kinds of cultures. I try to make sure that the symbols are active in multiple cultures before putting them on the list and that they really relate to the feminine. And so we have it randomized so that when you go through the gate, you receive your own, and not everyone is receiving the same symbol. Everyone is receiving something different. And we kind of give you like a small paragraph about what that symbol means, but then it's your job to go do the homework and to find out more about the symbol. How does it apply to you? And each of these symbols teaches us something about the divine feminine. Symbols are so important. I'm really big on symbols too, because they're like archetypes. They teach us in a practical way, right? How to embody the feminine. So we do that. So yeah, we do the teaching, we do the courses and the meditations, journaling prompts. We do the somatic practices and the ceremonies, taking people through the gates. So that's how we do it in our self-paced program. And then the other way that we do it is we host retreats. And when we do the retreat, it's always a mini heroine's journey. And it's kind of intense because it ends up being like 4 days of the heroine's journey. And so we take you through, right, similar things, physical practices. We do the somatic work, we teach you, we help you understand the symbols. And each day is usually like day 1 is usually like the initiation, and day 2 is the descent, and day 3 is the search, and day 4 is the ascent. And that's how we take women through all together, and we allow them to experience emotion in real time. And it's really powerful when women come together in a physical space like that. It's so powerful. It's so powerful to see the transformation. But I have seen women really change through both of these things. So hopefully that describes it for you and gets people excited and to
Yes.
understand, but it's
Yeah,
possible
that's
to do
great.
this.
Wonderful. How often do you do the retreats, or when is the next one coming up?
We do them at least yearly. This year, right now, we don't have dates for this one because my business partner just had a baby and I'm about to have a baby. So we're feeling it out. But usually around June is when we do the retreats. And we're kind of looking to maybe do them multiple times a year, maybe a spring and a fall retreat, depending. But look forward to it in the summer.
That sounds amazing. Um, yeah, I would love to participate in a retreat like that, and I'm sure a lot of my friends and our listeners would too. What has knowing about the heroine's journey meant to you personally, and how has it helped you through these phases on your own personal journey?
Well, my experience with the heroine's journey was incredibly visceral in many ways. When the first time I went through it was before I became an attorney and before I knew what it was. And that experience was hard won. It literally, and it's like this for most women. Like your first initiation is like, oh my gosh, I think this just tore my life apart. Like this is not the way that I thought my life was going to go. I didn't think, everything I learned. How could I deconstruct everything that I've been learning? And once I learned about the heroine's journey, it really enlightened me of, okay, that's why I had to go on that journey. But that journey was still kind of masculine. I did learn so much about myself, but it still was masculine in that that wasn't my center focus. The second time, I mean, we're always going through it. But when this came to me, when I decided to do the heroine's journey, just to be clear, like I didn't make it up. I didn't like make up the heroine's journey. It comes from archetypes, just like Joseph Campbell, very similarly. It comes from scholarship, archetypes from ancient times. Like you've talked about Inanna, like from Inanna forward, right? We can see this in the Handless Maiden. We can see this all over our culture. On our podcast, we talked about it through a modern lens of Alice in Wonderland. You can see this, like you talked about Frozen 2 and Kanto. Like it's there, it's embedded. I didn't make it up, but it came to me in a really visceral way. And I got really, um, I would say, I had a really spiritual experience. I got a calling to work with Heavenly Mother in a way I had never considered, and ended up having kind of three different visions. I don't know what else to call it. Visions of her, working with her, but her in a way that was different than the first time she visited me. The first time that she visited me, it was in a form that I understood much more readily, and she had me sew the veil with her, and she was working on a loom, and I understood that. The second time she wanted me to work with her, she took me into a cave, and she took me down into a maze in the cave, into this really dark place. And that was very scary for me at first. I was very afraid of going down here, and, you know, um, I think we have this perception of Heavenly Mother, like, how could she be like that, right? She's all light and goodness, and like she can't possibly have any darkness. Like, why would she ever bring us down? But she taught me many, many things through that. She asked me if I wanted to take of the fruit of this tree. She said, and she told me that the fruit of this tree was all the wisdom of all the women who had come before me. And it was just this deep purple color. And, she told me it was going to be really hard if I took it, but I decided to take it. And when I tasted that fruit, it was like both the most delicious thing I ever tasted and the most disgusting thing I ever tasted. Like, it was very visceral. It was both, because that's what wisdom is, right? Wisdom is both. You get the sorrow and you get the joy. You get, the pleasure and the pain. And she told me that it was the poison that heals. And I didn't really understand that at first. I didn't understand the poison that heals. But the poison that heals is that being able to, confront these pieces of yourself, confront what's not true and what really is true, confront the shadow part of yourself, the things that you've repressed of yourself, confront the truth of the whole of who you are, light and shadow, right? Good and bad. And that is the poison that heals, because it makes you whole. And I had to really learn that. And she put me through three tests. She put me through three gates, and each gate was totally different. And this kept happening. Like, she kept telling me that I would see things happen in the real world, and then I would know. And it did happen in the real world. Like, she told me, like, I'll send you an avian messenger. Like, I'll send you a bird, and you'll know when you see the bird, right? And I just had this crow land right in front of me. Every time I tried to like scare it away, like I just kept walking and it would not move. Like, it just followed me for like a whole block, and it kept squawking at me. And as soon as I was like, hey, I get the message, like, I understand why you're here, then the crow flew away. Like, he left and he was cool. We were all cool, but it was just kind of this incredible experience that just kept happening. And she just kept telling me, like, I want you to tell other women about this. Like, I want you to teach other women and take them through these pieces. And, she'd appear with the serpent, which can be scary for people, but the serpent is feminine wisdom. It's a symbol of Christ. It's a symbol of the mother. And she would teach me other symbols. And so this experience for me has been like, and I can't even say, like, I'm still working with her. We're still working together through this, because sometimes I just don't always feel like I have to go back to these places, right? Like, we have to keep working. It has just meant the world to me, Oftentimes, like, even this is like the first time I've told this story on a podcast, and, there's parts I'm not ready to talk about fully even here, but I kept thinking to myself, like, people are going to think I'm crazy. Like, this is crazy. This is so crazy. Like, the stuff that is happening is crazy. I don't think anyone could understand, but the fruits were so good. The fruits of everything that happened, the freedom, the happiness that I was feeling, the wholeness, just feeling so whole, feeling like myself, seeing changes in myself, seeing changes in my husband, seeing changes in our children. Like, the fruits really, were like, oh, this is actually so good. And it's so important for women. And that's what I want other women to be able to experience. Maybe you won't have an experience like me where you have these like visions. Maybe you will, but I do promise you, like, I can promise you, if you go on the journey, it will be worth it, and you'll see the fruits for yourself. And that's what I've seen. I've seen the fruits of feeling more like myself, of feeling wholeness and seeing the beauty and being able to like help others.
That's amazing. Yeah, anybody who I've talked to about who's gone through a similar journey, even though there's often a lot of pain and discomfort and struggle, nobody has ever said I would take it back, or it's always like I wouldn't change that for anything. It made me who I am. It helped me see the world and myself so differently, and I see others more clearly. I can relate to people better. It creates like a depth and a richness in life that people wouldn't trade. So even though it can seem scary or hard, or it is scary and hard, if you're in it, it's definitely worth it. And I think it's the point of life, right? Is to grow and to learn, and that's kind of what I see as the whole point of us being here. So I'm curious, you said you had these visions and these experiences with Heavenly Mother. How did she first come into your life?
Yeah, my journey to Heavenly Mother. I had always had questions, maybe not necessarily just about Heavenly Mother. I always felt like she was there and important, but I didn't realize I had such a deep longing for her until law school, actually. In my first year of law school, I found out I was pregnant with my daughter. And before that, I had had some experiences with her. I had researched Asenath. Joseph and Asenath, my daughter, that's her name. Her name's Asenath. I'd had this like spiritual experience with Asenath, and I was like, there's something missing, right? Like her story is not even in the Bible. There's something missing, but their love story, Joseph and Asenath's love story, is so beautiful, right? So important. And there's all these important women. And that had set me down kind of a path, and I was looking for that. Like, how do I, what pieces are missing from this that I can't even see? And I came across a course that was called Womancraft. And I was like, how interesting, womancraft. What is the craft of a woman? Like, what does that even mean? And the things that they talked about were so beautiful and so innately feminine. I was like, man, this is what we're missing. Like this is what so many women are missing. And that really pushed me to learn more about Heavenly Mother. Then during this time, got pregnant with my own little girl, and I was like, I have to figure this out for her. And she had like such a strong presence. She had told me she wanted to be named after Asenath and that was her heritage. And so I was like, I'm in this very masculine environment and I need to figure out this feminine thing because I don't know if I know how to do it. And anyway, went through law school and learned a lot more about her and started putting some of the pieces together, became friends with Mandy Green, which is so funny. She just was like so kind to me. Mandy, listeners here, if you don't know Mandy, she is a scholar. She's in the middle of getting her master's from Duke. She's awesome. I'm sure she's come on the podcast before. And she does a lot of work about finding Heavenly Mother in the Bible. And I just happened to be friends. She was a friend of a friend, and she really was just so kind, like took me under her wing and like became my friend and was really sweet. And then I had this going through law school, I got into my dream law firm. Dream law firm, I was working for them. I'd been working for them, dream job, like all the things. But I had the most horrific anxiety, so much anxiety that I had never experienced. And I was just in the middle of praying about this horrific anxiety. Why do I have such anxiety? Like everything should be going right. They're going to give me a job offer. Everything's going to be okay. And I was praying, and that's when I had my first vision of Heavenly Mother completely. I had felt her presence before. I had learned many of her words. I had started studying, things about the Holy Grail and very interesting things. And but this was the first time she just came to me, and I had been asking about my anxiety, and I was able to talk to Christ about it before her, and he was like, it's trying to tell you that this is not right. Like I'm trying to tell you like this is the wrong path and this is why you still feel so anxious about it, and like you're ignoring your body and trying to do this thing anyway. And I was like, oh, thank you for letting me know. And then he was like, yeah, you need to focus on women. You need to focus on your family, your kids. So I asked him, I said, can you tell me how? Like, how do I do that? And he was like, oh, actually, that's not my stewardship. That's mother stewardship. She can tell you about that. And I was like, okay. And he was like, do you want to talk to her? And I was like, yeah, that would be great. If I could connect. And there she was, just standing. We were like at this beach house. I know this sounds so crazy, but it makes sense. If you're me in the dream, I met Christ at a beach house, and we still meet there sometimes. Sometimes we meet at the beach house. But I happened to see he moved out of the way off the porch, and there was a garden off the porch, and she and Heavenly Mother was standing in front of the garden, and she asked me to walk with her. She said, will you walk with me? And I said, of course. Like, who's gonna get rid of that invitation? And Mary Magdalene happened to be with her. I could tell from her like red hair, she was there. And we walked in the garden, and the first thing that she said to me, this was always like such a surprise to me. This is why I was like, I could not have made this up. But literally the first thing she said to me was, your body is a temple. And I was like, yeah, my body's a temple. Okay. Like, sure. Well, like, is there other things you want to tell me? And she kept going back to that. Your body is a temple. And we're like walking through this garden, all this temple imagery. And she's telling me how sacred it is and how I need to connect to my body and all these different pieces, how all these women have lost their connection to the body. And she was like, you know, some of the wisdom, like you've learned some of the mysteries. I need you to learn more. And I need you to, that's when she asked me to sew with her. She brought me to the courtyard. She was weaving on a loom. She had this loom, and she told me, you know, this is the tapestry of all that was, all that is, and all that will come. And she said that she was the creator of the sky and like the mistress of the sky. And she told me a lot of other really cool things about her. And by the way, at this point, I did not know that the weaver was an epitaph of her. I didn't know that so many of the symbols were her symbols. Now that I've studied symbols so much more, I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes way more sense now. Like I keep coming across things and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's why she showed me this. Like that's why she's telling me this. But I wouldn't have known if I hadn't been like scouring for symbol, like if I hadn't been studying these things. Yeah, did not know that she was a weaver. That was her epitaph. But she told me, right, I need you to teach my daughters. Like, this is what I want you to do. I want you to teach them how to be weavers. You're a weaver, and I need you to teach other women how to do this. And that I came out of that and was like, oh gosh, I think I have to like quit my job and like stop doing this law thing. Like, I think I have to pivot, and I don't really know what to do about this. But ever since then, I have just been trying to fulfill what she's asked of me and to help other women understand how to weave. And you know, sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, I'm really not good at this sewing thing. Like, I don't know how to like sew all these threads together, but I'm trying, right? And that's what I'm trying to do, is help other women see like you can sew the threads together. Like you can become a weaver. Like you can create these gifts and bring in all these other pieces, and it's not evil and it's not bad, and it can come together in a tapestry that's beautiful for you. So that's how she came to me.
Wow, that is so special and unique and powerful and beautiful. Thank you for sharing. It's also very personal, I can tell, and special to you. So I feel really privileged that you shared it here. I feel like I have so many more questions, but we can't talk all night. I know you have to sleep. But my final question that I'll just ask you is, how has the mother changed you? And then, of course, we need details on where to find your programs.
Man, how has she changed me? She has changed everything in my world. I think she has helped me to know that I have gifts that I never knew that I could have. She set me on a completely different path and trajectory for my life. She's comforted me. She's been there with me and held my hand in so many places. And if someone listening has this, maybe this is for you, but I know sometimes, just like with our other heavenly parent, with our father, sometimes we can get afraid, like, is she really there? Does she really care? Like, is she there with me? Like, are you here? And sometimes we feel that silence, or feel like the answer isn't coming fast enough, or we're not as connected as we should be. But I just want you to know that she's there. She's holding your hand. She really does care about you. You know, she really is in the details of your life. She's always been there. Even if you never knew her, she has always known you because she birthed you, right? She birthed you into existence, and how beautiful. So she never forgets. Mothers never forget, right? She will always have her hand outstretched to you. And I think the Proverbs are right about her, that you're happy. She is happiness, right? She brings happiness to us and love, and happy is the one who follows her and finds her and holds her counsel, and it's okay to know her. So I'll just leave you with that it's okay to know her, and she's changed me by knowing her. And I found myself by knowing her. So that's what I'd say about the mother. And as to where to find me, you can always find me on Instagram. It's at Astrological Attorney. And you can find me on our podcast, Feminine Alchemy. If you just type in Feminine Alchemy, we're the first ones that pop up. It's a woman with stars. It's purple and gold. And you can also find me if you want, or if you're interested in the school, the programs. It's called Feminine Alchemist. That's mist spelled MYST, like mystical. So find us at femininealchemist.com. We would love to connect with you.
Great. And we'll put links to all of those accounts and websites in the show notes. So you can just click and access all of those. And thank you so much, Julie Bean. You're amazing. Your testimony and faith in the mother and in women and in our ability to go through this journey is really inspiring. And I'm so grateful that you're sharing those talents and that you've listened, and that you're on this mission to help Heavenly Mother's daughters. It's really important, and I think it can feel lonely and it can feel like shouting into the wind, but people are listening and people are wanting this, and I believe that the right people are going to find what they need and that we'll find each other. And I'm just really grateful for your work. So thank you so much for gracing us with your presence again.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoy this podcast, we invite you to come on over to patreon.com/inherimagepodcast for more content and community.